Hello again, Timon. This tutorial is specifically for Google Workspace in teaching, and I'm super excited to go over just a few things with you. Now, note there is so much included in this topic that it's always a good idea to just explore what's out there right now, but also B, keep an eye on what continues to keep coming out from Google to help you enhance your teaching. Google Workspace includes collaboration and also online storage tools like Gmail, Calendar, Meet, Google Drive, which is usually how you'll access your sheets, your docs, your slides, and forms, as well as sites, and many more things that this awesome tool allows you to have access to, all for free. You can, of course, you have a personal account. However, what we're really prompting folks to do at Timon is to log in via your Bishop Timon login so that all of your documentation stays in the space. For succession planning, should you leave, there's an awesome way that you can just package everything together, and it's called takeout, and you just move it over to another profile. So no big deal there. So how can you use Google Workspace in your teaching? Well, there's a few different ways. So let's take a look at all of the tools that you have available to you. The first I have here on the screen, it's Google Drive. Now, Google Drive allows you to create files, which we'll take a look at in just a second. You can create brand new files and folders inside of this space. You can also upload things, and in some cases, those things can be converted. Let's say it's a PowerPoint, and a PowerPoint presentation can be converted into a Google Slides presentation so that you can collaborate and edit it right inside of Google Drive. And I mentioned that word collaborate. You can collaborate with your students and also with your fellow teachers or anybody actually outside of Timon if you give them the access to do so. So Google Drive is a really the primary tool. So many teachers use it, so many people use it across the world, and specifically for a storage place for all of their work. Presentations are another way that you can use Google Workspace. You can upload PowerPoint presentations to Google Drive for easy sharing and collaboration, as I mentioned, but also you can convert those PowerPoints over to Google Slides so that you can collaborate more seamlessly within the Google Workspace environment. And I highly recommend doing that. Google Slides is a very robust tool. You can use it for creating slides. You can link between slides just as you do in a regular PowerPoint. You can easily insert video. You can create really dynamic presentations such as escape rooms and also learning stations, and finally breakout rooms using slides as well. Now, you may have noticed that we used a tool called Google Forms when we were going through our middle states work. Google Forms allows us to easily collect information from a certain group of people and to be able to see those responses immediately within the tool, as well as to be able to export it out to something like an Excel or a Google Sheet file so that we can easily manipulate the data. And there are a lot of design features that you can add onto Google Forms to make it look like this, to kind of pretty it up a little bit. Of course, this is the view that I have. You'll notice I'm just going to preview it real quick. The preview view looks like this. I love Google Forms because you can also have people scan in a QR code right from their phone and be able to, contribute to the form right on any device that they have. So the great thing is that you can set up information up at the top. You can also add kind of section headers and different types of questions throughout. But did you know you can also use Google Forms for creating quizzes? So once you flip a form over to be a quiz, you can allow it to automatically grade for you. And you can see that some of the features are, we have just a sample question here. And then one of the things that you can do is be able to go ahead and add a certain number of points to an answer, check the right answer, and then click done. So this is, I think, a really great way to have students easily take a really quick short quiz or even a long exam. So I've done placement exams in Google Forms as well, and students will go through the quantitative part. They will answer, say, questions about a language, and they'll have to go through. And then at the end, there's an oral component where they have to upload a video. And so there is a Dropbox feature in here where you can have students be able to contribute a file as well. So that's that file upload there. So you can get really creative with Google Forms, and also, as I mentioned, converting it over to a quiz, and then you collect those responses. Now you can connect the Google quiz to Classroom, and then you'll have a full grade book happening in Classroom as well. And this really goes for any of the tools that we're going to talk about. The next tool we have is Google Sheets. And again, relating it back to some of our Middle States work, we used a lot of sheets for tracking and collecting information. There are some really unique features inside of Sheets where you can, put in drop downs. You can also put in check boxes to mark if something's done. You can color code and do some color validation and work so that things will highlight in a certain color if they're between a certain date range, or if they've been completed or still yet to go. You can include links and also assign people. And of course, there are filters on each one of the tabs. So just like Excel, you have a lot of these features, and you also see some more of the dynamic charts that Excel has that you can also build into Google Sheets, and it can pull from data that's on the tab or a different tab in order to create the charts, right? Now, of course, Sheets is a really unique way for your students to collect information, but also for you to collect information from them. You can create checklists or hyperlinks inside of here so that students have their kind of differentiated, unique work that they are working on, either in teams or individually. And then they have to leave a link for you to the work that they completed or to a site that they found. They can also check things off as they're going through. They can, of course, make a copy of a Google Sheet, just as we've seen in Docs as well. And they can also create their own sheets, and they can layer in colors, use themes with them, and also change some of the background shading as well. So Sheets is another great option. You, of course, have the regular formulas that you'd see in Excel, also in Sheets. So it definitely comes in handy in some of those classes where you're doing some of that quantitative work. Jamboard is a pretty neat virtual whiteboard feature. You can have students collaborate on it. And this is a blank whiteboard. You start out with a blank whiteboard. You can change the background. You can also add an image to the background. You can choose to write. There are different writing tools. There are also different Post-it and sticky note tools. You can add images and shapes. So it really functions as a virtual whiteboard. But we have teachers who are using the Jamboard in very unique ways. Many of them are check your knowledge type activities. You could see that if you change the background to be something that maybe is an image or something that's different, students can actually put their information on top of it. So you might have something like a daily calendar, or you're going through Romeo and Juliet and you have students taking a gamble, making those connections inside of the Jamboard. You can do check your knowledge like activities where you have, what did you see? How did it make you feel? What do you wonder? KWL charts easily could be done like this. And then you can change your background to be an image. Maybe you can have students label certain parts of anatomy. And then also just regular sticky notes as well. So Jamboard's a pretty unique tool. You'll see up at the top that there's little arrows. So you can keep one Jamboard for maybe an entire class, and then you just sort of flip through the frames or one particular lesson. Google Drawing is another tool that you can use. Students can create their own drawings, they could share it with each other, you can create drawings and they can collaborate on it. You can change the background of the space, you can add on text, images, and shapes as well. One of the pretty interesting features that I think is in here is the ability to create charts and diagrams. And say we were to select diagram, there's a whole series of them here, but I can choose something like a grid to be able to easily pop it in grid. Now I can contribute to this, but also share it with students, and they will also be able to collaborate on here as well. Google Keep is a great way for you and your students to take notes in class. You can share these notes and collaborate on the notes as well. And although it doesn't have kind of what I think is lacking is kind of a folder function in here, it does have the ability to add labels so that you can easily look at all of the notes associated with a particular label, So let's go ahead and add a note and then take a look at some of the features that are in here. So here is a started note, and you can add in a title up at the top, take some notes. There are not a ton of HTML abilities in here. So things like I want to add a link, or I want to be able to add in bullets. You don't really have that ability in here. However, you can take some quick notes. You can add in some things like a drawing. It will take images if you do a copy and paste with an image, or you can also add an image that way. You can use it for checkboxes that people are responsible for certain items, or you are keeping your own list for something. You can add folks to it by adding collaborators, and then you'll see my little test label down at the bottom, so I could easily search for test or just click on test on the left-hand side, which is pretty fun. I can also copy this to Google Docs for further editing with more features and functionality. There also is a feature to be reminded about a specific note, and of course you can pin notes to the top of your screen. Notes has an app on the phone, so you could use it, Keep has an app on the phone so that you can always access your notes in Google Keep as well. The thing you'll see across a lot of these tools is some of them have the ability, like you'll see this in Calendar, you'll see this in Gmail, and you'll also see it in something like Docs. Along the right-hand side, you'll see Google Keep. So what I've done in the past, and there's my note from Google Keep, if I have to copy information from one to the other, I'm maybe reusing content and I want to keep it somewhere, Google Keep, I want to keep it somewhere so that I could easily copy and paste it later. Google Keep is a really great way to do that. And then when you're in Docs, slides, and a lot of other spaces, you'll be able to grab it from there as well. Google Sites are not limited to just administrative work. You and your students can create Google Sites for your classroom, for their resumes, for your teaching portfolio. It is such an awesome tool, a very easy way to create a web space and have a presence online, to be able to create multiple pages, and also make it look pretty using some of the themes. There is just so much functionality in it. You can add images and video and information. There's also the ability to add maps. You can create a really kind of interesting multimedia experience with it. And this is a tool for presentations too. Instead of just using PowerPoint or slides, students can create a really interactive web space where people can go on and take a look at. So it's an example of public scholarship if that's what you want it to be as well. There is one feature I want to make sure I highlight because I think it's really overlooked in teaching, but it is like the coolest tool. So under New, if you go under More, you can create your own what they call My Maps. So this is the same functionality that's in Google Maps, except they're customized maps for you. What you're able to do is add different layers of information. And so say in one layer, just in a very basic space, we might have outlined all of the streets. And in another layer, we might have outlined all of the businesses. And in another layer, we might have outlined all of the schools. And then you're able to pinpoint the different locations. So every line can actually have information on it. Every location can have information on it. And I'll give you kind of a dynamic example here. So here is, if you're going to be using, you need to kind of map out locations and say a history course, something with geography, or even you can use this for math for, measuring the distance between places and locations. You'll see that they've added a video in here so students can add on their own layers of information to help to visually tell a story. Again, this is another example of a presentation or storytelling tool that will allow students to kind of document their learnings and then to be able to present the story in a very different way. So My Maps, pretty awesome tool, and I think you'd find a lot of value in it if you tried it out. So that's the basics of Google Workspace. I hope you have a lot of fun playing and incorporating it into your teaching.